Hello everyone, I'm Christina of CSLdesigns, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this beaded Art Deco ring. And this is the one that I've made here. So you have this kind of Art Deco part in the middle created by those SuperDuos, and then I've also added some lovely sparkle along the edge and right there in the middle. And then all the way around we have this nice kind of decorative ring band, but at the same time somewhat neutral. So we have the main part of the ring that stands out right there. Now I created this ring because previously I made a bracelet that looks like this. Again, so it's Art Deco inspired, but I quite like the way that these little sections look by themselves, and I thought they work perfectly for a ring. That's why I came up with this, and I think obviously you can easily use this as a set if you use the same materials. So if you want to learn how to make the ring today, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we're going to be using. First of all, here I have the beads that we need. The first ones are these SuperDuos. Now this specific color is Metallust Hot Pink. So what we're going to need is 8 SuperDuos in total, so we don't need that many. And then I have these 11 nose Miyuki seed beads in opaque black. I just like choosing this black color to go along with that pink, just so it kind of makes the pink stand out more. And again, I also chose that black color in these 15 Miyuki seed beads. And then I have these 2.5mm Swarovski bicones. They're going to add a lovely sparkle. The specific ones are crystal AB, so we get that kind of rainbow effect from them. And we'll also need 8 of those bicones there. And then I have this single rose montee. This is going to be right in the middle. And this is also a crystal AB, so it gives that beautiful sparkle. And the thread that I'm using for this ring here is this FireLine. I'm using this because it's a little stiffer than, say, Eslon thread, and it's going to really help make the ring itself stiffer and just more wearable, more substantial. And along with that thread, I'm using 2 beading needles as well. So let's get all the materials together and let's get started. And then what we're going to need is the length of our thread here, so we can obviously start making the ring. So what I've cut and I'm working with is about an arm's length. It's just a ring that we're making, so it doesn't need to be miles long, but obviously we still need some because we do need to go around a few times. And then what I've done is I've taken that length of thread, and then I've taken my needles as well and just attached one needle to either end, and then I put a decent tail through both, so it's going to be a bit shorter to work with, like that. And then we're going to be working here from the middle. And then we're just going to get some of the beads ready. So I'm going to get my SuperDuos here, and then also some of the 15-0s, because we kind of just need to make this middle section first. So I take my needles as well with my thread on, and first of all what we need to do is go through one SuperDuo with both needles in the same direction, but in each their own hole. Just get that around there. So they go through the SuperDuo just like that. And then bring this all the way down to the middle of the thread. So that's now kind of the beginning point where we're starting from. Then separate them out again. Then we need to add the beads on either side, and that is first of all one of the 15-0s and then 3 SuperDuos. This is just on one needle first of all, and then again finish with a 15-0. Repeat the exact same thing on the other side. So one seed bead, a tiny seed bead, the 3 SuperDuos, and then a tiny seed bead again. And you can just bring them down the thread a bit. And then on this end, we need to take the last SuperDuo and do the same thing as we did with the first one. Go through with both needles in the same direction, but in opposite holes. So it goes through like that. And then push that all the way down the thread, which then pushes the rest down as well. And you can see it's going to sit like that. Now the single SuperDuos that we added there on the side, on either side, they're going to kind of sit a bit muddled up if we pull it too tight, but just kind of lay it down flat and then push them out to the side, so it's going to sit like this. So there we go. And then I just kind of want to secure this a little bit more. So again, I'm taking my needles, separating them out, and then just figuring out which one goes to what side. Just flipping that around. So what I'm then going to do is they're coming out from that SuperDuo there, the last one that we added. So this one is coming out from the right hole. So what I'm going to do is go from the right over towards the left. So basically just through the left hole. And then you want to come through all the beads down the side. So the seed beads, the little ones, but also the SuperDuos. Make sure you catch all of them. all the way until you get through that SuperDuo on the other end of it. And then pull this all the way through. Now don't pull too tight or anything yet, we're just getting it through now. Then take the needle from the other side and do the same thing. You just kind of keep laying this out flat if you need to, makes it a little bit more manageable. Now this is coming from, looking at this way, the left hole, so now I need to come over and go through the right one, and then through all of these on this side. Again, make sure you don't skip, especially those little seed beads, and then all the way through. And then pull the thread down so we don't have loose thread on this end. But like I said, you don't have to pull it too tight, because what we actually need is for this to lie flat. So just kind of pull your threads somewhat tight so we don't have loose thread, and then make sure to lay this so all the SuperDuos on the sides there are going out to the sides away from the piece, and then it lays nice and flat, because that's what we need to make sure to do so it doesn't crumble up too much. So then from here, I'm actually going to start making the ring band now. So you can just kind of have it however you feel comfortable working with it. Just going to get this out to the side again. And then we're coming out from that top SuperDuo, where we're coming through both holes, but with each their own thread. Then we need to bring in the larger seed beads. So I'm using the 11/0 for this. And then just take your needles again, and then we need to add one seed bead to either needle, and then you can let that drop down, and then add another seed bead to whichever needle, doesn't matter. Let it drop down a little bit, but keep hold of it. Just getting thread out of the way there. So I'm keeping hold of it, and then going through that same seed bead with the other needle, but in the opposite direction. So like that, we're crossing through it, and then you can pull this all the way down. So these seed beads we've now added are going to sit right after that SuperDuo that we're coming out from. Again, especially right here in the beginning as we're doing the ring band, just make sure that this middle part with all the SuperDuos stays nice and flat. So if you pull this a little bit hard, make sure you don't pull it too hard, and if you do, just make sure you flatten it back out before moving on. You can see they kind of keep wanting to crumble up, but then we have that little point there, and then basically what we've got to do now is repeat. So with both needles, add one seed bead on either, and then on either needle add another one, and then bring it down a little bit to then cross through that one with the opposite needle, and then we can pull that down, and then that's going to sit right after the first ones that we added, and then we start to create this little ladder effect. So basically now what you want to do, remember, like I said, make sure you keep this nice and flat. It's going to get less of a problem the further we get with the ring band, but just keep an eye on it. Then you just want to keep doing this until you have the length that's going to reach all the way around your finger, all the way to the other side there, and reach that SuperDuo. So I now made the length that I need here, and it looks like this. And what you want to make sure to do is finish on the two seed beads there, so you have one on either thread. So we're not crossing through the middle one there as the last one, we're finishing on those two, because then they need to connect to the bottom, the other side of this mid part. And then I can just show you here what it looks like on the ring mandrel. So you just take your piece so far, and I'm just holding on to that open end, and then I'm just using the ring mandrel. Obviously if you're using your finger to measure against, it's the same principle. And then I'm placing that mid part of it where I want regarding the size, and then bringing this ring band all the way around, and then just making sure that it almost meets up on the other side here. So you can see it's going to meet up just nicely, just with that SuperDuo there. So to then connect the open end of the ring band, just going to lay it back down here. Then I'm going to take my needles, again they're separated out to the sides, so the one that's coming towards the right here, I'm also going to keep on the right down here. So just do one at a time. I'm taking the right one, and then I'm going to bring it through the SuperDuo there on the bottom, but through the right hole. And then again, we need to go through all of these ones on the side. So that means also that tiny little seed bead. Make sure you don't skip that. And then just through all the SuperDuos again. So you might just have to go through a few at a time. And pull that through. We don't have to pull it completely tight yet. Might be easier just leaving it open for now. So we have a bit more space here to work with. And through the last ones. And again, just got to make sure I have that little seed bead, which I didn't. So go through that one as well, and then come through that SuperDuo on the other side. And pull through. Again, just make sure obviously you don't get tangled up, so I'm just going to bring it through on the outside. And then what you want to do is take the one on the other side, so the needle there, and repeat the same thing. So this is the left one. I'm bringing that down through that SuperDuo and through that left hole in it, going through all the ones on the side and coming out the same place as the one on the other side that we just did. And then when we have them both through, then we can pull them tight. So the long ends here, where the needles are attached, just pull them a bit at a time. So the end of that ring band comes all the way down and meets up with that SuperDuo, just like that. So there we go, it's now fully connected. What you can also do now is just, while connected like this before we go any further, you can just double check and kind of try it on to make sure the size is right. Otherwise it's easier on doing it now and then maybe take a few off or add some if it's not quite right. So there we now basically have the full shape in place. And then we're up at this end here. So obviously what we've got to do now is add the rest. So now a handy way to hold it, I find, is kind of putting your finger a little bit through the ring band while you're then working on it. So what we need to do now is just get our threads in position to then add the bicones along the edge. So right now they're coming out from that SuperDuo. So I'm just going to go straight through the bead that's right opposite the hole we're coming out from. On the same side there. So kind of just passing through the next one. And the same thing on the other side. Just going straight through that one. And then what we need to do is basically turn them around. So again, just take one at a time. Instead of moving on, I'm going to go through that middle one. Kind of how we did the ring band as well. So crossing through that middle one to get to the other side. The same thing with the one from the other side, crossing through that. So now the threads have basically swapped sides. Just don't get caught up there. And then instead of, like I said, moving on to continue through the ring band now, we're going to go back up. So just whichever one first, it doesn't matter. Go back through the seed bead that we just went through on the side, so the one that's right next to, in front of the SuperDuo there, but only the seed bead, not the SuperDuo. And come out there. The same thing with the other side. Just go through that single seed bead on the side. So, like I said, the threads have swapped sides, but also they've kind of swapped direction. So instead of coming down this way, we've now swapped them to go up that way and come back towards this middle part there. And then we need to bring in the bicones. So I have them ready there. And then straight away, I'm going to take one needle here, again just one at a time. Work on one side at a time, and then we just move to the other side and do the same thing. So add one bead onto that needle there, and go from that seed bead that we're coming out from right to the first SuperDuo on this right side that I'm staying on for now, in the outer hole that hasn't been used yet, and pull that through. That's going to sit just perfectly there and kind of fill that little gap. And then grab another bicone and then go through the next SuperDuo in the outer hole again. And basically we're just filling in the gaps between these SuperDuos now on the outer edge with the bicones. The next one. All the way to the other side here. Make sure to pull them nicely so we don't have any loose thread between. And the last one, just the same thing as the first one, we need to go through the seed bead just right in the beginning of the ring band there, and just that seed bead to then fit in perfectly just there. So that's now the bicones added on the one side. Move to the other side and just do the exact same thing. Grab the first bicone, if I can find the hole here, and then go through the SuperDuos in the exact same way, all the way till you get your thread and needle to the same side, in the same place there. So now we've gone through on both sides there. Then, because of where we are, we might as well do the rest of the ring band now, because the thread is coming out perfectly just to continue to do that. So what I'm going to do is bring in some more of the 15-0s, so the little tiny ones. And then what we're going to do, we're coming out from the very first SuperDuo, sorry, the very first seed bead there on either side, that's connected pretty much to the SuperDuo. Then I'm going to add just one needle at a time, 2 of the 15-0s, and then we have that little pattern. You can almost kind of call it little crosses here. We then need to go through the next seed bead that's on the outer edge. So that one there, so not the middle ones that you cross through, we're sticking with the ones on the outer edge, and just stick to the side that thread and needle is on, and get through there, and then pull that all the way through, because then those 2 little seed beads, they slot in just between, and then add another 2, go to the next of the larger seed beads there that's on the outer edge, and pull all the way, pull the thread tight, and then the beads there slot in between them, and then repeat. So again, the 2 15-0s, and you just keep jumping to the next seed beads here that's on the outer edge that we already did those little crosses with. And you can do this for a little bit on this side, swap to the other side, and of course just do the exact same thing. So add 2 seed beads of the 15-0s, and then jump from the seed bead in the ring band that's already there and across, and to the next one in the outer edge on this side. So now I'm on the left here, and you can see it just fills in that little gap. So just do this all the way around the ring band until you reach the other side. So now I made it all the way to the other side there, going all the way around the ring band, and it looks a little something like that. So what I do just want to mention is that when we're adding in these 15-0s to the edges of the ring band, it does enlarge it ever so slightly. So that's why I mentioned as well, when you're measuring for the length of the ring band and then to connect it to the other side, make sure it doesn't meet up just completely with it, but you have a little bit of a gap just to kind of make up for that. But then really the final thing we have left to add is our little rose montee right there in the middle. So that's what we just need to do now. So now we need to get to that middle part. So that means, again, I'm just going to take one needle at a time, and we're coming out from the very last seed beads that were the initial part of the ring band that we made just before the SuperDuos there. So what I'm actually going to do is take my needle and go through the SuperDuo, because we need to get to the inner part of this kind of midpoint, middle section of the ring, and also go through that seed bead on the other side of the SuperDuo. Make sure you always catch that, and pull the thread all the way tight, and then I need to come through the next SuperDuo. So I'm still on this right side here, and that's again the inner hole, and you want to only go through that one SuperDuo, so not the next one, and make sure to come out between them. So if you need to push any beads out of the way, just do that. So that's one side, that's not coming out in the place that I want it to. On the other side, just do the exact same thing. Go through the first SuperDuo on this left side here, and also if you can through that seed bead. So again, you will probably just have to do a few beads at a time here. Pull that through, and then go through the very first SuperDuo in the inner hole. So again, we get to the same point as we are on the other side. Make sure to come out between the SuperDuos. just like that. So now we have the threads in a position to add in that rose montee. So I then grab that rose montee there, and then I have my ring ready, and then I just take one needle at a time. Now I'm just starting with the right one, so the one that's coming out to the right side, and I'm going to go through one of the holes in that rose montee. I'll come straight through like that, making sure that that stone is facing upwards. It's not too crucial right now, but it will be crucial obviously once we put the other needle through. So you can see there we have the cross on the back. That's going to be the back of it, so you want to make sure you flip it around, kind of like that, before we then take the other needle through the other hole there. So what actually happens is that they're crossing inside of it. Pull that through, and then we can just pull up both of the threads, and what will happen is that this will go and sit all the way down right there in the middle and fit just perfectly. Now what we need to do, and obviously that's why you got to make sure that it's the front of the stone here that's facing upwards and away, so that's what we can see. So then again, take one needle at a time. I'm taking the one that's coming out towards the right side, and then we need to basically skip the middle SuperDuo and then go through the last one on the side there, again in the inner hole, so just get down between them, and then also the little seed bead between the SuperDuos there, and then through that last SuperDuo if you can. Otherwise just take them a bit at a time, a few at a time. One side, same thing with the other side. Just getting my needle there. Skip the middle SuperDuo to then go through the last one, and a seed bead. Maneuver a little bit here. So obviously the beads are sitting close together, so just take your time to get through them the best you can. Struggling a bit with that last SuperDuo, I think. So I'm just having to do the SuperDuo and the seed bead to begin with, because like I said, just do it however you need to. And then through that SuperDuo to come out by the ring band. Just like that. And obviously make sure that this is pulled tight now, so that that rose montee right there in the middle is sitting just perfectly how we want it to. So there's not going to be any loose thread or anything showing. So there we go, that's now added in. And that's pretty much more or less the whole ring done. Everything is added in. All that's left to do now is obviously get rid of the thread, but obviously also tie it off so it's going to be nice and secure. And in that process, I'm also going to just reinforce the ring band a bit more, so it gets a little bit more stiff and sturdy. And the way that I'm going to do that is just work with one needle at a time, and then start obviously on the side that that thread is coming from. And what I want to do is first of all just go through the first couple of beads, so kind of get away from that join. So I'm just going through the first three, so that means the large one first of all and the two small ones after that. And just pull that through. And then I want to start tying some knots here. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm now right in front of the next larger bead, and that's where I'm going to tie knots, so then I pull it into the larger bead, there's enough space. So we need to come up. So I'm going around the side there and up on the inside of those little beads, but make sure you go up through the little hole on this side so you don't go to the other side. So just like that, bring it through, but not all the way. Make sure we leave a bit of a loop here. Just get the tail out of the way. So we have a little loop that I then want to go through with my needle, and I like to go through that twice. And then what we're going to do is make sure that then this thread is in the right place, so if we need to pull it down, it's going to sit in between the last of the small beads and right in front of the next larger one. And then that's where our knot is going to sit when I'm pulling this tight. So just pull on the long end of the thread where the needle is, so that knot comes all the way down and sits there. And then what I'm going to do is take the needle and go through the next bead, so that's the larger one, And what you might as well do is go through the next two smaller ones as well. Pull it all the way through, because then we're already in the place for the next knot. And as I'm pulling this, you can probably feel a little click. That means that the knot has been pulled into the bead. You don't have to pull tight or anything, just a little gentle tug. And here I'm going to do the next knot and just continue like that all the way around. So I'm doing it in front of every one of the larger beads there on the edges. And obviously do the same thing with the needle on the other side as well. And then once you tie your final knots there, then what you just got to make sure to do is go through a few more beads, whatever that is, just so you don't cut off the excess of the thread right by a knot, because that's just going to come undone. So just do that, get rid of your thread, and then you'll have your finished ring. So here's then the finished ring, once I cut off all the thread. It looks like that. So you can see you have that nice feature right there in the middle with all the sparkles as well, and obviously a nice pop of colour with the colours that I've chosen to use. And then the ring band going all the way around. And it sits nicely on your finger. So it's nice and comfortable to wear as well. So that's how you make this to match the previous bracelet that I made as well. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching.